Saint Paul the Hermit was born into a Christian family in 229. They lived in Thebes, Egypt. With their way of life, his parents showed Paul how to love God and worship Him with all their hearts. Paul must have been deeply saddened by the loss of both his parents when he was only 15 years old. Several years later, in 250, Emperor Decius began a vicious persecution of the Church. Paul is hiding in a friend's house, but he doesn't feel safe. His brother-in-law is after his inheritance. At any time his brother could betray him and report it to the authorities. So, Paul fled into the wilderness. He found a cave with a palm tree and a fresh spring nearby. That's where he settled. She plaited palm branches and made them into clothes. He eats fruits and drinks fresh water. Paul intended to stay there only a little while until the persecution ended. However, by the time this time had passed, he had fallen in love with a prayer life. He felt so close to God. How can he let it go? Paul decided to live in the desert and never return to his luxurious lifestyle. Instead, he will spend his whole life praying on behalf of all people and making reparation for sins. There was another holy ascetic at that time. His name was Saint Anthony. Antonius thought that only he himself was an ascetic. God showed Paul to him in a dream and told Anthony to go visit him. Paul was very happy to meet Anthony, because he knew that death would come for him in a few days. Antonius was sad because he didn't want to lose his new friend so soon. However, as he himself had predicted, Paul died on January 15, 342 at the age of 113 years. Paul received many extraordinary spiritual gifts, and death overtook him with great spiritual joy. Anthony buried this holy ascetic in the robes that once belonged to Saint Athanasius the Great. Then, Anthony brought home and put away the clothes made of palm tree branches that Paul usually wore. Saint Anthony of Egypt testifies to his holy life and death. Seduced by the thought that no one had served God in the wilderness longer than him, Anthony was led by God to find Paul and recognize him as a man more perfect than himself. The crow that day brought him a loaf of bread instead of his usual half. As Paul predicted, Anthony will return to bury his new friend. It is thought that he was around 112 years old when he died. Paul is known as the first ascetic. The feast is celebrated in the East. It is also commemorated in Coptic and Armenian ceremonies.
Saint Catherine of Alexandria, Pierre de Natalibus narrates that before her baptism, the saint had a mysterious dream, in which Mother Mary, holding the child Jesus Christ in her arms, showed it to the child Jesus so that he would accept him as one of his servants. The child, Jesus, on the other hand, rejected him and turned his head the other way so as not to see him, saying that the reason was that the child, Catherine, had not been reborn in the fountain of baptism. When he awoke, he pondered what he still had to do to please the beloved Savior. He determined not to delay receiving the sacrament, and then did receive it. After she did, Jesus Christ then appeared again to her and was so kind to her, to the point of taking her as a betrothed, in the presence of his most holy mother and divine spirits. She wears on her finger a miraculous ring, which she finds on her finger when she awakens, which makes her acknowledge the reality of the divine betrothal. Catherine was so clever that she spent her youth studying philosophy and theology, which was so easy for him, that at that time he was very successful in his studies at Alexandria, where learned men founded sacred schools to teach Christians. Despite the fact that she is a woman, she can defend the truth about our religion against the sophists who are so skilled.